Welcome into the Legislative Lounge. We're your host, Natebige and Professor Mike, and we're glad to have you guys in here tonight. We're going to be talking about a subject that is on everybody's mind right now. Is World War III about to pop off? Mike, what do you think?
Honestly, I don't think it's going to pop off one bit. I think from a military mindset, um, what Putin is doing is a show of force. You know
All right.
that that Johnson measuring contest, if you will.
Right now, I put out a little poll on social media, just be like, hey, do you think are we gonna sit here and we're gonna trust that Trump can keep the pieces together while this babbling buffoon is in office, or do you think that he's gonna descend the world into chaos? And I got a mixed feeling out of it, and I honestly didn't know how to feel about it, but I've been seeing some things as of lately that were a little concerning to me. Not because of the fact that we have a babbling baboon in office, like I said, that doesn't know where he is most of the time, wandering off in a goddamn you know rainforest for whatever god knows reason.
He
But
got lost in the
it's
jungle.
yeah, I mean, like, where you going, bro? Like, you in the Amazon, them people was gonna eat you just like your uncle, right? But anyways, we got Putin out here back in September, I believe, is when he gave an interview telling anybody, especially the United States, like, hey, if they use these missiles on us, like it's on. And just recently, as you know, Ukraine used the missiles from America because they were greenlit by Biden himself. And so the question becomes, what does Putin do?
Um, I honestly think with the length of time that he's been at war with Ukraine, forces are dwindled, resources are dwindled. I mean, what is it? 20% of that population already has no running water, no utilities, or anything like that. I think he's got.
Right.
Um, I think his nuclear capabilities are a last resort, and I do believe he's going to be waiting for Trump to take the mantle because he knows, just like the rest of the world knows, if Trump is behind that button, everybody's going to start acting right.
Right, and I mean that's kind of the confusion about all of this is because not only is the fact that he and everybody else in the world knows that Donald Trump is on his way and he's already been in contact with him as of the night, basically the next day after the election. He's been in contact with Israel. He's been reaching out to. He even said today on True Social he's contacted China on multiple times because a lot of people don't understand that it's not just Russia. Russia has allies with China. They have allies with, Pakistan, North Korea, basically everybody that is not an ally of our allies, like India or Taiwan, South
There was
Korea,
there was
all the
something
opposites.
something I was reading where something like 10,000 troops, North Korean troops were in Russia.
Right. And I was just about to
Something
get to
like
that
that.
is the fact that they're training together now.
Yeah. I spent a year over in Korea when I was in the military. Not terribly worried about the North Korean forces myself, but when it comes to sheer numbers, it is something to pay attention to. I think if the bambling, bumbling buffoon keeps this up, it's not going to make the case easy for Trump. But I do believe that Trump is gonna, put a stop to this, and I do believe Putin is waiting on those negotiated processes.
And see, I will get into like my theory around what's happening in regards to why Biden's green lighting a lot of these things. But to your point, there is some confusion though in regards to what Putin's going to do. Because on one hand, he's saying, "Yeah, there was even reports of him saying, I'll talk about a ceasefire as long as Trump is going to be at the head of those conversations." But at the same time, right after the strike in was it Moscow? In a couple different places where they were aiming at from Ukraine, he went on the Russian news network and said this.
In response to the use of American and British long-range weapons on November 21st of this year, the Russian armed forces launched a combined attack on one of the facilities of the Ukrainian defense industry complex. We consider ourselves entitled to use our weapons against military facilities of those countries, that allow their weapons to be used against our facilities. And in the event of an escalation of aggressive actions, we will respond decisively and reciprocally.
Right? I mean, so he
So,
and
I
then
mean,
what did it
we,
happen?
we do the same
He
thing.
also
We
gave
would do the
another
same thing.
interview. Right.
We would do the same thing as
Absolutely
the
we
United
would.
States.
And that's the thing about it is like everybody's like, "Oh, you guys," and they'll probably be like, "Oh, you're Russian sympathizers." Like, no, because honestly, I don't give a damn about either one of them. I'm just straight honest with you. I don't care what happens on the other side of the world. And people like, "Oh, well, it affects us. It affects." No, it only affects us because we allow it to affect us. Honestly, in all
Right.
reality, because like
If-
people talking about, well, what about the oil? What about the gas prices? It's Rush. It's Putin gas hike. I mean, like, well, that will push us to do exactly what Trump wants: is become energy independent. Yay!
if we look at Ukraine for actually what it is the leading country for child exploitation, child slave labor, child sex labor. Like nobody talks about that. So I'm fine if Ukraine goes away.
Right. And to add even more fuel to this fire, this is something that I just learned today is the fact that even France came in and provided weaponry to Ukraine and basically told them, hey, there's no limit. You have all the green light that you want to strike back. And this is the foreign minister, 𝗬𝗎𝗓 saying that there's no red line that's given to them for using those was it scalp EG missiles? So like we're entering dangerous territory right here. Not only the fact that we already have three involved countries, which is Russia, Ukraine, and us, which that automatically makes it a world war if chaos descends from that point. But there's been rumors now, Mike. This is what I was trying to get you in on last night. There's been rumors from people in the military. Now, these are lower levels, not the upper levels, because obviously they can't give this information, saying that we actually have boots on the ground in Ukraine. What are your thoughts on that?
So, in regards to boots on the ground, when we think of boots on the ground, we think of large military forces like Iraq and Afghanistan. When I think boots on the ground, I think of strategic special forces style boots, right? Where you have our SF that are training the host nation, just like we did with Afghanistan, just like we did with the Iraq army. You have specialized troops to train the forces that are actually on the ground. So we could very well have special forces there providing advisory roles. But I don't think we're there yet as far as a large troop. That would be that'd be too big to cover up. So I think people are getting ahead of
And see, that
themselves.
was, yeah, and that's not even like if they're right, and that's part of my thing. That was my argument or my, combatants towards that individual because I mean they're a Trump supporter, the individual I'm talking about, and they're talking like deep conspiracy stuff. But I couldn't really combat them any more than what I'm about to say because I'm not in military and they were. So it's like trying to use that point of authority type situation. But they were claiming they were currently in the military talking to these individuals. But my question to them was, what are your thoughts on the War Powers Resolution of 1973? And of course, this individual really didn't even know what it was. So I'm like you do know that the president has to actually inform Congress 48 hours prior to them moving any soldiers into a combat zone, which Ukraine would definitely fall under that category. So the question then remains: is he doing this illegally? And of course, they said yes, but you got some QAnons out here that we do not
Well,
endorse at all. I call them out. I've lost
well,
accounts on TikTok and social media because of QAnons. They're absolute nut jobs.
let's talk about that soldier you're talking about, right?
Hmm.
There's this thing called OPSEC, operational security. I'm sorry, but if you're boots on the ground in a war zone, you're not making communications about what's going on. So that dude's just
It
he's
was the
probably
lady, yeah.
he's probably a specialist, probably stuck in the barracks, he has nothing else to do but go on TikTok and spread lies.
And that's exactly why I wanted to bring you in because obviously they were going to hear me out because they kept already before I even went into the live. They were like, "Oh, I'm in the military. What's your service record? I'm like, it doesn't matter because I have the ability to read. But I mean,
too many. There a lot of young soldiers play Call
yeah.
of Duty
So
too.
I know, right? It's crazy. You get on TikTok or any type of social media, and you have people out here talking about things that they're really just not educated on. But then they'll try to derive from a point of authority, like, "Oh, I'm in the military." Okay, just because you're an E3 or an E4 doesn't mean you know jack. Okay, you're a grunt. Shut up.
Oh,
But I
but
mean,
yeah,
once
I'm not worried one bit. Like I wish I would have gone in there. It probably would have been a lot of fun for me. But I'm mainly on social media to help people learn.
absolutely. And that's what we're going to say to our viewers here. If you guys have any kind of bills or know anything in regards to things like the War Powers Resolution of 1973, that's what we're here for, is to educate you guys, because there's a lot of people out here that are going to fearmonger on both sides, honestly. And a lot of times, I hate to say it, there's a lot more fearmongering in a sense on the right now, because there is a lot of uncertainty with the cognitive abilities of Joe Biden. Yeah, but you guys, we need to read more. Like, there are specific articles of power here in America that prevents things from happening. Like this consistent, oh, I'm going to be Trump's going to be an authoritarian dictator. Our government is literally dictator proof. The way that it is set up, the branches, the checks and balances, it is literally impossible for them, because in all sense, there's never going to be an agreement fully within a party. They're just not. There's always going to be outliers. There's always going to be individuals that come. And the Republican Party right now is a perfect example of it. People are sitting here saying, "Oh, there's 53 in the Senate now. We control the Senate." No, we don't. You want to know why? Because there's people like Angela Murkowski, I believe that's her first name. The last name is correct. The senator from Alaska. And then you have, I can't ever remember her name because she's so irrelevant. She calls herself a Republican coming from Maine. It makes no sense. There's no such thing. But there's a Republican senator in Maine. So that automatically puts us at 51, right? Because they've already shown how many times you look at the voting records that we don't have 53 Republican senators. And then the rhino of them all, you have, for the next 2 years at least, the dinosaur that is, Mitch McConnell, right?
The walking
You got to
stroke
question
alert.
him. I mean, you don't know if he's going to even make it the next 2 years, but he's in there for at least two
I
more
don't think he
years.
is. I don't think he is stroked out on live television so many times. He's worse than Biden.
Yeah. And then you have, Lindsey Graham, even though he came out just the other day, was like, "Oh, well, I'm going to back Matt Gaetz," before he dropped out, obviously. And the Trump agenda is like, sure. We'll see it when it happens, because we've seen so many times where you've actually crapped on the Trump agenda, even back during his first term, along with all the crap rhetoric you said about him during the last 4 years. But then look at the shiny new leader of the majority in the Senate, John Thune. Who? Oh, you mean the guy that literally votes 50% of the time for the Democratic policies? You mean that guy? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we definitely have a majority in the Senate, guys. Woohoo!
Speaking of, I wanted to get your blind reaction on this, Nate. Speaking of corrupt politicians, let me show you a corrupt politician, if you will.
Would you, as governor, allow state police and National Guard to carry out? Would you, as governor, allow National Guard to carry out mass deportation?
We will not be participating in misguided efforts that harm our communities. And I've been incredibly clear about that.
So you disagree with mass deportations and the fact that the president-elect says that's what he's going to be working on day one?
Well, I think that those efforts are going to divert needed resources that we need here on these drug interdiction and smuggling and trafficking efforts to keep harm out of our communities. We need those resources here, and the coming here today and seeing this operation.
The
I mean, right when I saw her, that, and for those that don't know, that's Katie Hobbs. She is the governor who certified her own election back in 2020, or was it 22?
22.
22. Okay, that's what I thought. But she has just been a babbling buffoon herself in everything that is Arizona. And here we are talking about, you have the guy from, I believe it was Colorado too. I can't remember his name, the mayor or whatever, that also came out and was like, hey, we're going to openly defy the federal laws where I have no jurisdiction. And if Trump wants to come in here, I'm going to fight them and go to jail. I was like, yes, that's exactly
But
what's going to happen because you have no jurisdiction.
that's exactly what an insurrection is you denying federal law. And if anybody wants to read, let's take a look at this real quick. So this is 𝗬𝗓𝗣𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧. This describes exactly what an insurrection is. As you can see right here, the expression engage in insurrection as used in the amendment, which is the 14th Amendment, is implies a voluntary effort to assist the insurrection. And here we have the 14th Amendment, Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative of Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as any executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So her denying federal law is a big deal. And I mean, that's an instant.
Yeah.
She needs to be out.
Absolutely. And I like the fact that, I have my qualms with him, but Governor DeSantis out of Florida came out, I believe, either today or yesterday. Can't remember when exactly it was. It was within the last couple days, basically. He said that if anybody wants to try and fight federal agents against trying to do their duty in regards to law regarding immigration, you will be held accountable. I was like, yes, that's exactly what we need. And we need every governor or mayor to come out and say that because you do not have jurisdiction. That is one of the very few items that the federal government does actually have constitutional control over.
Mhm.
Even
Yeah.
though they overstep their bounds in a lot of different areas where they shouldn't, that is actually one of the actual things they do.
Yeah, the government is the main thing behind the government is national security, foreign relations, and interstate commerce and foreign commerce. There's a
Right.
few things
And
that the government's in charge of.
absolutely. And so like I can't understand why these individuals have come out. And I know we kind of deviate away from the topic right now, but also, I mean, if you have infighting within our actual, country ourself in something like, what's escalating not only in Russia and Ukraine, but what people really haven't been talking about as of late, even though it was huge just 2 months ago, is the whole ordeal in the Middle East. I mean, you have tensions between not just Palestine and Israel and the Houthis and all that other, like there are strong indications that Iran will move some kind of military expedition against Israel. I'm honestly, because of the way that they were talking, which I know usually they just talk a big game, but to the point where Israel off one of their major leaders in Israel or in Iran itself. So I'm actually surprised they have not done anything up to this point, and nobody's really talking about it.
Well, it's because they don't want to wake the sleeping giant. And I do apologize to everybody. I am having connectivity issues. I think there's a storm brewing up here in Arizona.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, nobody ever wants to wake the sleeping giant that is the United States. And we know without a shred of doubt that Iran has been funneling weapons and other sources into Gaza, into the surrounding extremist areas.
Right.
And if they keep this up, like, we're going to be backed into a corner where we're going to have no choice but to shut them down completely. And I do believe that's going to happen once Orange Man Bad gets back into his rightful place.
Right. And for any kind of liberal or Democrat that's watching this and be like, oh my God, of course Trump would be. No, like, even if Biden was in office, doesn't matter. We have a contractual liability to go and defend Israel against the foreign enemies. Like, it's in stone, guys. If we fall back on that, we lose all credibility, and we will lose alliances around the world, honestly, because of the ones that Israel has outside of us. So you can sit here and tell yourself, that, hey, we don't need to get involved. Well,
if it was somebody to get involved with, it would be Israel, just because of how much they've involved themselves with our battles. And they've done that since 1948. And especially in the Iraq and Afghanistan war, they were a huge help. They provided,
right.
A strength that is to be recognized. Like, the Israeli Special Forces is no one to mess with.
Right. And, I'm trying to pull it up here now that I believe it was the ICJ actually called for Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the prime minister, which would be, i.e., the president of Israel. If you don't know the difference, that would be the main leader. That would be their Trump, basically, of Israel, calling for him to be arrested. I mean, that is extreme at this point, due to the fact that I mean, that has so many oh Lord, I can't speak tonight. Ramifications. Let's go that way. Ramifications to it, because if they tried to actually arrest a world leader at that level due to some kind of narrative saying that there's genocide going on in Palestine, which I don't care either way. Again, it's about two countries that I personally, now Mike may have a little different of an opinion on it, but I don't care about either one of them, honestly. I mean, I understand why we defend Israel, because we have that contractual liability there between us, basically. And, if you're on the religious sense as well, I do look at it from that aspect. But I also can acknowledge that there is some corruption in Israel. Like, I'm not thinking there's corruption to the level a lot of people here in America are claiming that, there's mass genocide on the Palestine people because of the ICP, and, Netanyahu is trying to cleanse the earth.
You have lots of QAnons with the running narrative that the Jews run the world and they run everything. And I'm tired
I mean,
of it.
I can see why they say that, because they do have their hands in a lot of pots, but, like, do they run it to the level that they're saying? I don't believe so.
No. Are they behind Hollywood? No. Are they behind, every facet of American government? No.
Not everyone. I do
Like,
believe they have their hands in a lot of areas, but not to the
are they diversified? Probably.
Yeah. That's
Like,
that's a better way of saying it.
Diversification. I mean, there's more than just Jews that are diversified in our government. But it's like, when it comes to the Israel-Palestine conflict, I don't like bullies, and I believe that October 7th, Israel has every right.
Absolutely. And that's my
And
main argument towards people that talk about Israel, is the fact that, show me one time in history where Israel's instigated something since becoming a country.
no. And
I can't find it anywhere.
the problem is like, when you get into that debate, which it's a hot topic, is nobody ever wants to talk about a two-state solution if they support Palestine.
Right.
I think that's something to recognize. Like, there needs to be, if we want peace, there needs to be a two-state solution. If not,
Right. And
Israel's
Israel's
Gaza's going to turn into a parking lot.
Right. And that's another thing. People sit here and will say that, there's Israel, isn't offering that. It's like they've literally offered it numerous times. They gave them Gaza in a peace deal. Like, why are we not reading, guys? Like, we continuously go off of this false narrative being spewed out of the Middle East, saying that there's some kind of ethnic cleansing going on, when in all reality, it's just them defending themselves most of the time. I'm not saying it's pretty. There's no such thing as pretty war. It's war, for God's sakes. Like, it's the fact that the, Hamas terrorists are hiding behind children and women that you want to cry. It's like, that happens, guys. Like, you guys do know that every single country has killed women and children in war. It
Did,
sucks.
did these same people cry when Obama carpet bombed citizens,
Mm,
women, children? Like
mm.
he was when it came to UAV drone strikes, he was the mastermind. He has the top number.
Yeah, it's crazy to see these people sit here and claim they're standing with Gaza and Israel's the enemy and all this other nonsense. When in all, like, it comes down to this base fact: Gaza and Palestine, which isn't actually recognized by most countries. FYI, I didn't know if you didn't know that already, people, but they're ran by terrorists. Like, what are we missing here, people? Like, you do know that the United States government has them literally listed on a terrorist list. Like,
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at that terrorist list because the corrupt government in America also put Tulsi Gabbard on that list.
Jesus Lord. Oh, yeah, she's a Russian sympathizer. Yeah, the Polynesian, Samoan lady. Makes total sense. This is what I don't. This is why I hate people here in America, because they're just dumb.
But Gaza is, in every sense of the word, a terrorist or funded by terrorism. Supported by terrorism. Hamas is a terrorist organization supported by Pakistan and Iran and every other extremist sect of Islam. So,
and what I was getting to at that point, right, is even open it even further. Like, not only are they a terrorist organization, they were democratically voted in by the people of Palestine. Like, what are we? They literally asked the terrorist, "Hey, terrorist, we suck so much. We need you to come and tell us how to do things." Like,
we can keep going down this rabbit hole. It's like, my question is always, why don't the other surrounding Muslim countries accept Palestinian refugees? Like, that's a big question. Well, maybe it's because every time they have, their leaders almost got assassinated, or did get assassinated, or death and destruction came. So,
right. A perfect example is the Palestinian refugees in England. Look what they're doing. They're absolutely ransacking the entire country, it seems like. Crazy. The same thing, I just talked to a friend in Australia. They do the same thing there. It's like, you get what you like. For instance, like, the people, I'm not saying all of them are terrible people. Like, that's not the thing. But, like, when you are an individual that will vote in a terrorist group to run your country, like, you got some corks, loose a little bit. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, you definitely got a few screws loose. And we see it here. We see it here with the quote unquote protests. They occupied the Capitol.
But most of them were white, liberal women, which is funny enough.
Yeah. But we have people from January 6th who are still rotting in jail that have been given no due process. That Trump is going to, pardon on a case-by-case basis, rightfully so.
Right.
But it's like, it's so unfortunate that it's dependent on your cause, whether or not you go to jail for quote-unquote insurrection.
Mm-hmm. So, getting back to the whole World War III scenario, though, a little bit deeper, is the sense of, I think that there's a little bit more going on in regards to what the plan is here. because for the last several years, we've heard this notion since Donald Trump said that he was going to rerun for the presidency, is that, oh, he's a threat to democracy. He's a terrible person. He's going to be an authoritarian dictator, all this jazz, right? But then all of a sudden, he wins the election on election night, like I predicted. But all of a sudden, it's hey, buddy, we're gonna be peaceful transfer, and I'm gonna help. I concede, and then Joe Biden's like, "What's up, homie, man? Welcome back." All in their meeting, like, wait a second, isn't this the dude that y'all just said he was gonna tear down the very fabric of our nation and our constitution? He wanted to throw it away. He led an insurrection. He's gonna do this and that. You don't have to vote no more. All this jazz. Like, how is it all of a sudden that we're good? It's gonna be a peaceful transfer. But my thing is obviously that the math ain't math in there, so something else that has to be afoot, right? So my thing is because Joe Biden, just wandering off into the jungle so the people can eat him like his uncle, he's not there, guys. So he's gonna be 25th, right? Kamala Harris is gonna step in, cause absolute chaos, possibly. Who knows? I don't know. There's a lot of different scenarios. So my question to the people that are here and to Mike, put in the comments, what do you think is going on? Because math ain't math in any way you look at it.
I think Biden is so ridden with senility that the powers that be are putting into play certain pieces that are going to cause destruction, and they're going to blame it on Biden so they can 25th him, and then it's going to carry over into the Trump's presidency, and they're going to blame it all on him, like they did in 2016 throughout his 4 years. But let's remember, under Trump, we had no new wars. Under Trump, death and destruction came almost to a standstill.
Right. And that's the thing is, like, people continuously run with this notion that he wasn't this peacemaker. He had so many bombings, all this other stuff. But yeah, he was also a peacemaker, my guy. Like, if people attack our people, yeah, he gonna carpet bomb the crap out of them. That's what happened. But in all reality, he was the one that led the charge with North Korea, China, the Middle East as a whole, Russia. Like, these are adversaries, people. You can sit here and say, oh, he's just buddies with them, like an idiot. But in all reality, he's not. These people fear him. They fear what he'll do because they already know about him because of his business dealings. Like, people sit here and be like, oh, he's a con artist. He's this and that when it comes to business. That's why no, that's why you want him. Like, do you want him working against you or for you? Do you want somebody that's going to be maniacal enough to go up to Russia and be like, hey, sit the hell down? Because that's Trump. Like, be a maniacal individual to the point of being able to come up with some kind of trade deal which forced China to the table. Thank you, COVID, for ruining that. But
my favorite one was with the Taliban. My absolute favorite one was when he was meeting the leader of the Taliban. You shall not harm another hair on an American's head, or else I'll kill you. And he handed him a picture of his house. It's like, that
absolutely.
Is gangster. I love that.
Why in the world would you not want that? That's my thing. It's like, that's an individual nobody's going to mess with, especially with having the armed forces as big as we do. We have the biggest toys. We have the biggest weapons, guys. And he's the one behind it saying, jump, see what happens. Like, right now, you got a guy that doesn't even know what left from right, up from down. And he's greenlighting situations like what's going on in Ukraine and Russia, pushing Russia over the edge and saying, hey, y'all need to get your boy. If Trump ain't here, you better get your boy. That's basically what Putin's saying to America right now, and people don't realize it. It's crazy to me to see the absolute world descending into chaos. But like I said, put in the comments what you think is going on, because these things are not adding up to me. The fact that, Biden is greenlighting these situations, which he's already been warned on. You got all these conspiracy theories, which I'm going to dub them. I've been saying it for a while now, but you got these blue anons out here saying that there's mass fraud.
I love that so much.
Yes, I dubbed that. I'm going to own that. I've been saying it for months now.
We need to put
But
that on a shirt.
dude, merch. But in all reality, it is like you got people out here saying that calling for Kamala Harris to do recounts because election officials are coming out saying now that there's massive amount of fraud due to the fact that some of the systems weren't hooked up correctly, or all this nonsense. It's like, first of all, are you guys new to elections? She already conceded the election the next day, which means that she doesn't have any legal grounds anymore, guys. Like, does nobody
Oh,
read?
wait. Did you see the fun for fight thing that she released
No, I didn't see
about
that.
oh my goodness, it is fantastic. I wish I had put it up here because I just didn't think about it. She's trying to fund a recount.
No, I don't think that's her, because she knows, and I know, you know, and
Right
anybody
for
with a
her.
brain that knows anything about elections knows that she already conceded she can't do it.
I just think it's funny. She's still asking for donations, but let's be real, what those donations are going to be go for. They're going to go for the $20 million she's in debt.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is you got people out here still arguing economics in lies on TikTok and Instagram and all this other nonsense. And they're like, oh, Trump's going to be terrible. He's going to screw everything up with these tariffs. And it's like, dude, you tried to vote in a lady that raised over $1 billion in like 3 months and then is negative money. Where do you think she was going to pay that off with? Your taxes, you absolute buffoon.
Oh, let me enlighten some people. I don't know about every other state, but in Arizona, right after Trump got elected or became president-elect, the tax on rental properties went away. That's $50 more in my pocket. I like that. That's a tank of gas.
Yeah, I wish
So,
they'd do something here in Texas about rental prices, but I think that's another part of my whole conspiracy that
but
they're
he's not
trying
even
to
in
make
yet.
these things pop.
He's not even
Because
behind the desk yet, and shit's popping off.
right.
It's
But the
fantastic.
thing is, I think that they want like the housing market. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Got that
crypto.
delay, man. That sorry.
Yeah, cryptocurrency is going through the roof right now.
But the thing about it is, like, I mean, you also have a lot of outliers that people have forgotten about. The housing market literally is at a bursting level right now. Like, I've got houses here in Texas just sitting for weeks and weeks, which is abnormal because we have the highest move to state rate of any other state in America, including Florida right now. And we have houses just sitting and sitting. And like they want all of this to crumble under Trump, so he has to deal with it. So over the next 4 years, they can be like, "Told you, told you, told you."
There's a house next to me sitting.
Oh yeah, the house across the street. It's been there for 4 months.
Oh, you telling me to move in?
It's absolutely crazy. And these are the things that we have to remind people. And I'm going to say it every episode for the next 4 years. You have to pay attention and remind people about all of this happening from now, not when Trump takes office on January 20th, but from now. All of this was played up from now for the last 4 years. And if we want to go back to that, whoever runs in 2028, JD Vance, whoever it may be, that's who we need to vote for because they're going to continue this. I mean, MAGA and the whole movement and the actual change that Trump has made to the political sphere is not going to end with him. It's only begun.
I for one cannot wait till we get a Baron.
Man, that's going to be like 36, 2036.
That dude grew up in the White House. He's got a whole different perspective.
I mean, and that's one thing. Like, I know this is kind of off topic, but I just want to put out there big shout out to Barron Trump because honestly, if it wasn't for Barron Trump, a lot of what Donald Trump did in this election process, his campaigning, would have not been done. Like all of these podcasts, all of these movements with the youth that he did, they were all done because of Barron Trump.
You see the nice little comment that we got?
Oh yeah, we got the loving left out here. Yep. So just so y'all can see that. Oh, we had one a
I
couple
was
weeks ago.
I love our supporters. Even the left
Yeah,
supports our podcast.
absolutely. Bring more. And if you guys aren't already subscribed, go subscribe to us on every platform because why not? We're going to bring you guys the truth between the lines, whether you like it or not, because in all reality, we have something that most Americans don't, the ability to read.
Speaking of reading, my friends, I have a book that's coming out on Amazon. It's called My Bill of Rights for Kids and Democrats. That way we can all be knowledgeable on our inherent rights endowed to us by our creators.
Absolutely. And over the next 4 years, like we say, y'all need to remember, like, the things that are happening right now are because of Biden and the Democrat situation and what they've done. Now, I was never really like a party person prior to this, but I'll tell you right now, I'll never vote for Democrat after this year. That's for sure. But for the next 4 years, things should be kosher.
I'm gonna claim that I red pilled him.
I mean, I voted for Donald Trump twice, right? But I was never like gung ho Republican because I don't like a lot of Republicans in office. I call them out consistency. I mean, everybody knows. Anybody that knows me and watches this podcast or watches my TikTok knows I absolutely despise Mike Johnson. I think he's a spineless fish of a Republican, even though he's playing a part right now, going to the UFC fights with Donald Trump and all this other stuff, being buddy buddy with them. And I know Donald Trump, and that's one of the things people say is Donald Trump is endorsement this entire time. Okay, I don't care. That's why I don't mindlessly follow Donald Trump and everything he does. I've called him out on several things too. And I will hold him accountable to every promise that he has going forward. And as Republicans, if you're in here and you're a Republican, that's exactly what you should do. You shouldn't sit back and be like, oh, well, let him just do his job. No, hold him accountable to doing his job.
Exactly. And, when it comes to this podcast, I don't know about other podcasts, but when it comes to this podcast, Nate and I are going to be incredibly critical of every move being made on the chessboard of politics. Left, right, Republican, Democrat, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance. It's going to be critiqued. It's going to be talked about. And we're going to tell you the truth.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for coming in. Mike, take us home.
All right. If you haven't already, go follow the greatest podcast in America on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, and Twitch, and Patreon. And have a blessed day.
Absolutely.
Thank you.